back? Are you gonna tell me where you went? All the messages I sent with no reply.
Hello, Thousand Live fam. Welcome back. If you're new here, my name's Janaea and this is Live 1,000 Lives. Today I'm going to be going over my July, August, and September wrap-ups for you. I'm using Cawpile as my rating system, so I will leave G's Cawpile video in the description or in the cards for you so that you can find out. It is a very awesome system, so check that out. Let's get started because this may take a little bit. I read a total of 4 books, and we did Becca's Bookopoly-a-thon 24-hour readathon in July. I tried to read 3 books for that. I only read 2, but hey. So the first book that I completed in the month of July was A Song Below Water by Bethany C. Morrow. This was published in 2020. This is a magical realism, young adult, and mythology. This is a story about African American mermaids, sirens. For Cawpile, which I'll try to link somewhere, for characters I gave this a 7. For atmosphere I gave it an 8. For writing I gave it a 6. For plot I gave it a 7. For intrigue I gave it a 7. For logic I gave it a 6. And for enjoyment I gave it a 7. So the total rating was 6.86, and that was a 3-star rating. I love the fact that it's an own voices novel written by a Black author, and it goes over some hard topics like the treatment of Black people and police and all of that. Even like the fact that only Black women could be mermaids, and people feared them and treated them differently. It was really, really unique. But I really enjoyed the messages throughout. The hard part for me was that it got kind of confusing and the ending was really rushed to me. There were more mythological creatures than just sirens in here, and I feel like we weren't able to learn a lot about them in this world, and I just feel like some of the characters could have been fleshed out a little bit better. But overall, it was an okay read. A 3 stars, by no means a bad book. I just felt like it was a little bit rushed, and I wish it would have been done a little bit better, maybe gone through some edits or added some stuff or something, because I think that this is a really good book for the time that we're in our world. And yeah, I highly recommend you check it out. Just because it was a 3-star for me does not mean that it will be for you. Maybe it just didn't jive with me or something, but I did enjoy the mythological aspects in this. I really think that it was unique. I just wish it would have been fleshed out better, especially for some of our other characters. The second book that I finished in the month of July was Raven the Pirate Princess, graphic novel book 1. This is by Jeremy Whitley. This book was published in 2016. This is a graphic novel, obviously, YA fantasy-esque. For characters, I gave this 10. For atmosphere, I gave it a 10. For writing, I gave it a 10. Plot, I gave it a 9. Intrigue, I gave it a 10. Logic, I gave it a 9. Enjoyment, I gave it a 10. The total rating overall was 9.71, and that is a 5-star rating, which I figured it would be. I did read this for Becca's Bookopoly-a-thon, the 24-hour readathon in July. There's amazing diversity in this cast. This is about a female pirate crew, and they all are from different cultures and different races and also different genders and sexualities. I think we have like either a trans or like a non-binary character. It doesn't really go into the genders at all, but it does go into their sexuality, and most of the girls are attracted to other women, or are bi, they're attracted to both men and women. So it's very good, it's super funny. The thing I love about this is that it cracks me up, but it's also like serious and gruesome. Let me see if I can find. The girls like literally have fights and like beat each other up, and there's blood and stuff. It's very interesting. I really enjoy this, so I highly recommend you check out Princeless Raven, the Pirate Princess. There is another graphic novel called Princeless. That is also very good, but this is a side series from that. So, Princeless Raven, the Pirate Princess. The next book that I read, and I tried to read for Becca's Bookopoly-a-thon, but didn't quite finish, was Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson, a YA mystery or thriller. This is an Own Voices novel by a Black author, and it was published in 2018. For characters, I gave Monday's Not Coming a 10. For atmosphere, I give it a 10. For writing, I give it a 7. For plot, I gave it an 8. For intrigue, I gave it a 9. For logic, I gave it a 9. For enjoyment, I gave it a 9. Total rating was 8.86, and the star rating was a 4-star. So there were some amazing twists in here that I didn't see coming. This is about a girl whose best friend Monday disappears, and no one seems to remember or notice that she has disappeared, and she's just up and gone, and that her family's stories keep changing, and her best friend decides she's going to investigate and find out what has happened. There was a twist that I really had no idea was coming. I am really bad at picking up on things like that though, so you may be able to figure it out, but I did not. There was some parts in the middle where I was like, okay, come on, like get to it. That dragged a little bit for me, but I was still intrigued enough to keep reading. So that's where the enjoyment was down to a 9 for me, not a full-blown 10. Overall, this book was very good, and I highly recommend you check this out. There are trigger warnings for neglect, child abuse, and darker topics, murder, and like slut shaming and rumors about sex and stuff like that. If those things bother you, maybe not, but I really enjoyed this. Check out Monday's Not Coming. The last book that I read in July, which I know is crazy, I only read 4 books, but hey, reading slumps and stuff, you know. The last book that I read in July was A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. This is a retelling fantasy. I would classify it as new adult or adult, not young adult. That's just me though. This book was published in 2016, and it's the second in A Court of Thorns and Roses series. For characters, I gave this a 10. For atmosphere, I give it a 10. Writing, 10. Plot, 10. Intrigue, 10. Logic, 9. Enjoyment, 10. The total rating was a 9.86, and the star rating was a 5. For this book, I can't tell you too much about it, because if you haven't read A Court of Thorns and Roses, that would be spoilery. However, I can tell you the gist of the plot of the series, and that is that there is a young woman named Farah who goes hunting to keep her family from starving, and she kills a wolf who is actually a fae, and she has to then go live with the fae in the fae realm in order to save her life, basically. and she gets promised that her family will be taken care of without her, and it's her adventures in the Fae world and the horrible things and the pleasant things that she goes through. So that's basically the gist of A Court of Thorns and Roses. I absolutely adore this book, A Court of Mist and Fury. This is such a good book. I loved A Court of Thorns and Roses, but I loved this. This was even better. I highly recommend you check this out. I put this series off for so long because I was like, everyone loves Sarah J. Maas. Everyone loves it. I'm gonna hate it, because that tends to be the norm for me. When people love something, I don't. Yeah, well, I was wrong, and I absolutely adore this series. Those were the 4 books that I read in the month of July. Overall, I gave 2 books 5 stars, 1 book 4 star, and 1 book 3 stars. The total page count that I read for the month of July was 1,474 pages. So not too bad of a month, even though I only read 4 books. So let's move on to the month of August. The first book that I read in the month of August was Lady Castle by Dawson, Woods, Farrow, and Nolte. This is a fantasy graphic novel, YA. This was published in 2017 about a group of women whose men all disappear. They are killed or have vanished, and it is now their job to basically run the kingdom. They're trying to figure out who's going to be the new king, you know, since none of the men came back alive. The woman basically says, just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I can't be king. And so there's no queen, it is a king. She is now their king. It is very funny. The group of women are hilarious. They all have their own like wit about them and charm and sassiness. It is fantastic. For characters, I give this a 7. For atmosphere, an 8. For writing, a 7. For plot, an 8. For intrigue, an 8. Logic, a 7. Enjoyment, an 8. Overall rating was a 7.57, and star rating was a 4. The ladies in here are kick-ass. They don't need men to run the kingdom. They don't need men in their lives at all. They are very competent and successful women on their own. One thing I should say is, before the men disappear, women were kind of like, we're told like, you can only do this job, you can only do this job, don't speak unless spoken to. Like, they were very much controlled by the men of the kingdom. Then like when the men disappear, they realize that they have a lot more to offer than just what they've been told. So I really like that. The cast is amazing, funny, and like I said, kick-ass. So highly recommend you check out Lady Castle. The next book that I read in the month of August was Scythe by Neil Shusterman. This is a dystopian mystery YA. This book was published in 2016. For characters, I give this an 8. For atmosphere, I give it an 8. For writing, I gave it a 9. For plot, I give it a 10. For intrigue, I gave it a 9. For logic, I gave it an 8. And for enjoyment, I gave it a 9. The total rating was an 8.71, and the star rating was a 4 star. This is about these 2 kids who are chosen to become the apprentices to the Scythe. This is in a world where we have conquered death. There is no natural disasters, there is no sickness, there is no murder. There's none of that. There are these things called skies who have to go and meet a quota in their area of people that they kill each quarter, year, and they take on apprentices because they kill people for population control, basically, so that they don't destroy the world. The cool thing is like, you don't die of natural causes, you don't die of old age, you can reset to any age. Most people reset to like their 20s. Like there's one part in here that's like, yeah, my grandma came back with a new husband and pregnant. And you're like, what? It's very good. These two kids end up having to battle to see who is going to become the scythe, and it's very interesting. The one thing I will say is both the main characters I didn't really enjoy. I didn't really like them very much. I liked one over the other, but you're supposed to hate him, I think. So I don't know. I just felt like neither character was really likable, and I don't know if they're supposed to be likable. Overall, I liked this. It was fantastic. I cannot wait to read the second one. The next book that I read in August was actually quite a surprise to me. So that book was Save the Date by Morgan Matson. I went into this thinking I'm going to hate this. This is on my These Books Will Self-Destruct in 12 Months video. I'll link that below or in the cards for you if you want to check that out. This is YA contemporary. This was published in 2018. For characters, I gave it an 8. For atmosphere, I gave it an 8. For writing, I gave it a 6. For plot, I gave it a 6. For intrigue, I gave it a 7. For logic, I gave it an 8. And for enjoyment, I gave it an 8. Total rating was a 7.29, and the star rating was 4 stars. Like I was saying, I didn't think that I would like this very much because I normally don't like the cutesy contemporary stories, but I really liked how raw this was about family and how, like, sometimes what you perceive your own family to be like isn't actually truth. How things are not always as they seem, even though you're living it day to day. This is about a girl whose sister is getting married, and all she wants is for her whole family to come together and to be together one last time. Her parents are selling their childhood home, and she wants everyone to be together one last time in their house before the house is sold and before she, the baby, goes off to college, and they all are all over the place. They do have a unique family aspect in the fact that their mom is a comic book or comic writer for a newspaper, which is something that I relate to a little bit. My dad used to write a comic for a newspaper before I was born. He doesn't anymore. He's a pastor and a teacher now, but he used to write the comic. If I can, I will insert a little bit of his comic, or at least his comic art in here. For you guys, just to kind of show you what my dad used to do. So that was a little interesting to me that I had that kind of in common with the main character. The other thing about this is that there's so much going on. Everything that can go wrong will go wrong. This is basically like Murphy's Law in one book. I did actually really like it. 4 star. I didn't think I would like this at all, and I did. The last book that I attempted to read in August, please don't hate me, okay, was The Diviners by Libra Bray. I did not rate this because I DNF'd it. I was listening to this on audiobook. I got to page 240 and I stopped reading it. It was creeping me out quite a bit. So not only was it creeping me out, they were dealing with things, but they were also really put downish on religion, and especially Christianity, and me being a Christian, it kind of bothered me, and I don't know if it will continue that way or not. I am putting it on hold and I'm saving my spot because I may want to continue one day, but at this moment I'm not going to. So I DNF'd this. This was a historical fiction, magical realism YA. I would consider this even partly thriller, to be honest, mystery thriller. Like I was saying, like my major issue was that the topics were freaking me out and the way they portrayed religion I didn't really like. I understand that everyone has different opinions and religious beliefs, but I'm not going to sit there and tell you you're wrong and make fun of you, and I hate when people do that to me. I DNF'd it. Overall, for the month of August, I gave 3 4-stars and 1 DNF. My total page count, including the 240 pages that I read, was 1,204 pages in the month of August. Okay, so the month of September was a better month for me. The month of September was Becca's month-long Bookopoly-a-thon, and I had such a good time with this. And for the start of this, I decided to go with Percy Jackson and The Last Olympian. This is the last book in the original 5 Percy Jackson books by Rick Riordan. I listened to this on audio because I love the narrator. This is middle grade mythology, kind of late middle grade, early young adult. This was published in 2009. This is the 5th in the series. For characters, I give this a 9. For atmosphere, I give it a 9. Writing a 10. Plot a 9. Intrigue 9. Logic 8. Enjoyment 9. Total rating 9.00. Star rating a 5, which I figured would be. Is that I loved it, like I knew I would. This series is near and dear to my heart. Even though I am 34 years old, this is probably one of my favorite series of all time. If you don't know what Percy Jackson is about, number 1, where the heck have you been? But number 2, Percy Jackson is about a boy named Percy who finds out that he is a demigod, and he ends up going to this camp to train and to be safe because monsters are after him, and it's all about his adventures. That's what the gist of Percy Jackson is about, and I highly recommend you read it, even if you're older like me. The Explorer by Catherine Rundle. I listened to this on audio. This is a contemporary middle grade, possibly a mystery. This was published in 2017. For characters, I give this a 4, atmosphere a 5, writing a 5, plot a 5, intrigue a 5, logic a 4, enjoyment a 4. Total rating was a 4.57. Star rating was a 2. This is about a group of kids whose plane crashes in the Amazon jungle, and honestly, I was bored the whole time I was listening. Just didn't grip me, and I just didn't care like I should have. These are kids, they're, lost in the jungle, but they make some choices that I'm like, no, they would not have done that, okay? Like, no. Like, there's a point where one of the characters runs off. He's the youngest character. He runs off into the jungle to scare the other kids. That would not happen. Like, for real. No. I'm sorry. If you got lost in a plane crash, you're not gonna go and try to scare everyone. It's just not a thing that will happen. I did not enjoy this. So that's all I'm gonna say about it. The next book that I read in the month of September was Do Not Disturb by A.R. Torr. This is the second book in the Dina Madden series. This is a adult thriller erotica. This was published in 2015, and like I said, is the second in the Dina Madden series. I gave this an 8 for characters, a 10 for atmosphere, a 9 for writing, a 9 for plot, a 10 for intrigue, an 8 for logic, a 9 for enjoyment. Total rating was a 9 overall, and star rating was a 5. This series follows our girl Dina Madden. Give you the backstory of the first one, the girl in 6E, by the way. Dina Madden has locked herself in her apartment, and she has become a cam girl, so she doesn't have to interact with people in the real world because she has homicidal tendencies and wants to kill people. Yeah, and it's real good. I love this series so much. It's such a interesting premise, and I love crime, and who doesn't love a little bit of erotica? I know I do. So it's super interesting. I'm super excited to see how the third and final book goes. At least I think it's the final book. I don't think she's written anything else after the third book, but I loved this. This is so good. I will say trigger warning for highly obviously being erotica, sexual scenes. I will also say to trigger warning for violence and torture and graphic sex and graphic gore, I would say. Trigger warnings for those. But it's really, really good. The next book that I read in the month of September was Nemesis by Brandon Riches? I can never pronounce his name. This is a dystopian sci-fi young adult book. This was published in 2017 and is the first in the Project Nemesis series. For characters, I gave it an 8, atmosphere an 8, writing a 10, plot a 10, intrigue a 9, logic an 8, enjoyment a 9. Total rating 8.86, star rating a 4. This is about it's multiple perspectives between Noah and Min, and they are two protagonists, and you find out that they are part of a secret project called Project Nemesis, and they are the betas for this project. I almost put this down and DNF'd it because there were some things happening in the Pacific Northwest, which is where I live, that could potentially happen and scared the freaky frack out of me. So I had to put this down, and then I was like, I want to keep reading. I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I did, and I finished it, and I loved it. I cannot wait to read the next one. So this is good. It is scary in a real world, things could happen type of way. Not everything in this book could happen that I know of, but the natural disaster part of it could, and that part kind of freaked me out. Very good, very interesting. I am really confused at the end. I cannot wait to continue so I can find out what is happening. The next book that I finished, I will put a picture up here, was The Power of Self-Compassion by Lori Cameron. I listened to this on audiobook. This is a nonfiction self-help book. For characters, I gave it a 0 because there's not really characters. For atmosphere, I gave it a 5. For writing, I gave it a 4. Plot, there really was none, so I gave it a 0. Intrigue, a 3. Logic, 5. Enjoyment, 4. Total rating, 3. Star rating, 2. Now, I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't rate this, but I rated it just to see what it would come out with, and a 2-star feels pretty good. I did not enjoy this. I didn't feel like I really got anything out of it, and I felt like they were trying to put too much into the audiobook that was only 3 hours long, 4 hours long, and it just didn't mesh with me, and it just didn't do anything for me. So that's that. I didn't like it. 2-star. The last book that I read in the month of September was Skyward Volume 1 by Henderson, Garrett, Fabella, and Boland. This is a new adult dystopian graphic novel published in 2019. This is the first in a series. For characters, I give this a 9, atmosphere a 9, writing 9, plot 9, intrigue 9, logic 8, enjoyment 10. Total rating 9 and star rating 5. This is about a future world where gravity no longer exists, and we have to figure out how to function with no gravity and keep ourselves from flying off into space. This is about a girl whose father worked on this project that ended up being the reason gravity goes away, and he ends up staying in his house for 20 years, afraid of everything, and she has gone out and had to get a job and work to support them, and it's very interesting. It's very, very good. I highly recommend this. I love it. I absolutely love it. Like, look, they're just all like floating and jumping from building to building. It's really quite cool. But anyway, I highly recommend this. This is super good. Overall, in the month of September, I gave 3 books 5 stars, 1 book 4-star, 0 3-stars, 2 2-stars, and 0 1-stars. My total page count, without counting The Power of Self-Compassion, because I just listened to that and I have no idea how many pages are in it because it's only an audiobook, so I don't know, was 1,630. So that is my wrap up for July, August, and September. If you have read any of these books, please comment down below. Let me know which ones you liked and didn't like. Also, let me know what you think I should do about the diviners. I'm really on the edge about it. I think I'm gonna start doing monthly wrap-ups again. Let me know if you think I should continue doing the 3-month wrap-ups or the monthly. I really only read between 3 and 5 books a month, so I don't really know if I can consider that a good thing to do only a monthly wrap-up for. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button and ding that little bell icon for me. All my social media links are in the description box below for you if you want to be my friend on any other platform and chat to me about anything. Also remember, I have links to mental health help in the description box below if you or someone you know needs it. Remember, my Amazon wish list is also down below for you if you want to check out the books that I am interested in, or if you fancy sending me a surprise. Remember that a reader lives 1,000 lives and so can you, so keep on reading. And remember to stay safe, be healthy, be happy, be kind, and always love one another. See you in the next video. Bye!
You're just gonna walk into my room